It is absolutely impossible to put a meterage rate on a job until you get more involved in the project.
Duayne, what do you suggest builders do if they have an architect or a homeowner or a designer call them and say, look, I've got this project, can you give me a rough idea of what it will cost? Or they're even just pushing you to sort of give them ideas about square metre rates or, budgets and things like that they can start applying to that project?
Look, it's definitely a tricky situation, and it doesn't come up anymore because we're very set in our ways in the process we have. But for builders that are getting themselves into this situation, it's all about education. And that education is talking to people about, no two jobs are ever the same. So it's actually meaningless for me over the phone or even at a meeting or via email, whatever it is, to try and put a square meterage rate on something. I think in our industry, a lot of the information and a lot of the things that sort of people are led by is the volume and project builders. And they have got very set standards. So a volume builder won't build a house unless it's a flat block of land or if it has more than 500 mil of fall across it, they're not interested because they have their set rates and they know what jobs they need to do to make those rates work. And it's very different when you can walk into a display home and you've got 20 floor plans on the wall and you've got a couple of selections boards that you can pick things from. It's really, really easy for those types of volume builders to go, look, that one there's this much money, that one there's this much money. When you get to a custom builder, it's impossible. Without getting into the detail, understanding the site, understanding the level of finish, the fixtures, the detail in it, it is absolutely impossible to put a meterage rate on a job until you get more involved in the project.
Yeah, and it can actually be really misleading for them as well and cause a lot of disappointment long term, because if you tell them this price, they're then going to go and make choices and decisions based on that information. And oftentimes what clients and architects, or clients definitely will do, is that they might have that conversation with several builders, and then they'll find the builder that they think they like and can deliver for the price that they want. They'll have that figure fixed in their mind. They'll then go ahead and make the design, and they'll keep using that square metre rate as the application for what that design is apparently going to cost them long term. And then, of course, they'll come back to you and it will look very different to what you might have anticipated or thought about when you sort of said that square metre rate or that estimate at the beginning. And so, you can find that, for example, they haven't taken into account the site constraints, or they've misunderstood that the level of finish that you normally do is at a certain price point, and they've gone and used a different level of finish. And, levels of finish are something that are really subjective, because you can say, oh, we do luxury level or we do mid-level, and what they'll hear is very different. So, unless they're actually coming to you with real information that you can give quality feedback on, you can be just disappointing them in the long run.
Look, it's definitely one of those ones that's a recipe for disaster, and builders continually dig themselves holes by giving out this information. And it's definitely all about education. And I understand why builders do it. I did it in the past. You get in that, you're just in that mindset, this job's going to be finished in a couple of months, I need more work, this is a possible job, I'll tell them what this job's costing. But the thing is, no two jobs are ever the same. There can be dramatic price differences between two houses that might even be very similar. We've had a situation recently where pretty standard size, 2-story, 3-bedroom home, but had almost $400,000 to get it to a slab because it was in a flood overlay area, it was terrible ground, it was near a beach, it needed piering. So without getting more involved in a project and having those more in-depth conversations, square meterage rates are not just misleading, but they can end up causing lots of problems. For a client, they'll lose trust in you. So you can set yourself out to fail before you've even started. And I know you'll get architects and designers call you up and say, oh, look, I won't hold you to it. And because as I started getting better with my process and working through this, I would start to educate and I would start to ask more questions. And like one of my big things that I would always say to architects was, well, like, how can I give you a rate? Like, have you had a soil test? Like, have you got engineering? So, like, as an example, like, how do I know that it doesn't need piering? Like, that might change a job by $100,000. So, and it was really funny because some architects would really take that information on board and go, oh, yeah, all right, I've never thought of it like that. And other architects would say, oh, look, we're only asking you for a price for the house. We haven't done engineering yet. We're not worried about the foundations. And I can guarantee you that information doesn't get back to the homeowner. So again, they've held you to a rate. They've gone ahead and finished the designs, and at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to look bad. Your reputation is going to be tarnished because you've given them misleading information. So the best thing you can do is just not get yourself in that situation and educate them on why it's really important not to focus on a meterage rate.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's understandable clients want to know this because they feel that they need this piece of information in order to be able to commence their project. Lots of clients, they don't know what something's going to cost, and they don't know until they know what it's going to cost whether they can do it. They are trying to work out, comparing options. And so it might be a case of, look, I think that I want this, but if I know it's going to cost this, then I'll make a different decision. And so what they're really doing is batting at shadows, trying to figure out, what is the container for them to then start making some decisions moving forward. What I teach homeowners is that it's very difficult for you to do that very early in the process, and you need to understand that your job as a homeowner at the beginning of your project is information gathering, and that you might actually need to put some skin in the game in order to be able to start sorting out what the cost is going to be. So that can mean that you might need to pay to work with a designer for a little bit to actually create a design concept, and also that it's advisable that you get a builder involved to help provide input on costability. And so one of the things that you can do as part of this process is you can actually introduce them to the pack process and say, look, we don't give square metre rates, we don't give preliminary prices. What we do instead is we work with you in the pack process, which is our paid as consultant process. We come on board during the pre-construction phase. We work with you and your designer. We provide input on cost and buildability so that you are able to have a budget and create a design that actually fits that budget, and you can then work out what is the best spend of that budget on the design that you want to invest in. So, and that's definitely what works for you, doesn't it, Duayne?
Yeah, and we've had huge success with our pack process, and it's really funny because our pack process is becoming a bit of a standard in the industry now. It's getting asked for by name. We've got our pack process trained builders which are using the pack process, and it's really interesting because when we do get contacted or we get an email or phone call from a new architect or designer, and it just rattles off my tongue. I explain to them, look, mate, we actually don't do square meterage rates. We actually have a process called the pack process, yada, 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 talk them through it. 90% of the time, they are all on board. They've never heard, well, it's something they've thought about in the past, but they've never sort of had a builder that has given them the opportunity to get on board and get involved and all those types of things. So, having a process can be a really powerful tool. It can actually make architects and designers see you straight off the bat as a more professional builder. And it's been good for us because it has grown into better relationships. It's funny when you talk to people on the phone, they're not expecting it. So don't be afraid to bring up these types of processes with the designers and architects you're talking about, because it's opening up a conversation. And look, to be honest, you're either going to get the designers and architects that are all for it and are willing to have a conversation, catch up for a coffee and talk through the process and actually see if it's something they're interested in, or you're going to find out straight away quite quickly if they're old-fashioned, they're not interested in coming up with new ways to get their clients better results. And we've found it definitely it can go both ways.
And I think too, for a client, something like introducing the pack process to them gives them an opportunity to see, oh, okay, so I might not be able to find out exactly now what my project is going to cost, but you're going to provide me with a roadmap that will actually enable me to work with the builder and the designer or architect and assist me in creating the best design possible for the money that I have to spend on it. That actually sounds great because that's what I've been worried about. I've been worried about not being able to maximise the design potential for the budget that I have. And the thing is, every client, they might say that they don't have a budget, they will have a budget. So they will know what they want to spend. It's just that what they want to spend may not be informed by whether that is the best amount of money to spend on their home, whether it's going to get them the kind of house that they want, or how far that spend can actually be stretched across what they want to achieve. So, but in my experience, it's very, very rare that a homeowner will walk into a process and not have an idea of how much they want to spend on their future new home or renovation. And it's really about you as the builder, rather than being backed into a corner and giving them a square metre rate that might be really misleading, instead actually introducing them to a process like the PAC process that will help shepherd them through a really great experience of working with you so that they can know that they can develop their design on budget.
Straight away. So look, avoid the square metre rate at all cost. Educate the clients, designers and architects that are getting in contact with you. And if you want to know more about our PAC process, check out our PAC challenge.